Evening, everyone. It's good to see someone's here. It's a bit of a somber atmosphere tonight, but I'll try and be positive. Um, it's it's an anniversary of trauma, and you know, a big thing is to let go of traumas um, and move on. But it's not always easy to do that. It's especially when they have such a massive effect on your life, and this particular one has had a massive effect on my life for such a long period of time. And it's a very serious one too. Like, in by rights, I mean, if I had a good lawyer, I'd be able to prosecute for a large sum of money for what happened to me. Not just what happened to me on that night, what happened to me in the years afterwards. Because the effect of this lasted right up until this day. And I've been basically weeping the last 24 hours, sort of, being on the verge of tears, wishing I could cry, but I couldn't. But every so often a tear would, you know, and but I'd be stuck with that feeling of about to cry. Mommy, see how you going? Hi, Luke. How have you been? I've been. The last few days have been interesting. It's been good doing this sort of um, 6 days of streaming thing to try and do some sort of healing process. And it's been nice, cleaning my rooms. Yesterday, I cleaned my guitars. I was meant to clean the rest of the room, but I didn't get around to it. And today, I was supposed to do garden work, and I was going to film that and make a video, but I slept all day today because I needed to. So I'd been up all night with my caring role, and um, excuse me. And then um, I had full on dreams today, and I think a lot of the time when I have either nightmares or extreme dreams, they're associated with what's going on in my world, and um, so I was like, yeah, such extreme dreams, and so maybe I could talk about, like, see, a thing is with complex trauma is we all have different causes of the trauma, and um, so everyone's trauma is individual and unique, and um, in some cases people can actually get a form of justice in in a sense, um, and that's very rare. Mama Bear's here. Awesome to see you here. Mama Bear says, "Hey Luke, I've been wiped out today too. Energy is heavy. Glad I caught the live. I'm glad you're here too." So, and this is a heavy one too, because I'm talking about this being like an anniversary of um, something that was both a major trauma, a gross injustice, um, and something that took many years of my pretty much my whole adult life was taken away from me because of this. Like, my art career was sabotaged, my working life was sabotaged. um, I had suffered harassment and intimidation, all because, and I feared for my own life because the person that did this crime is a famous international personality, and he's not really that he's famous, but he's not like talked about much. So who's responsible for the trauma that I have experienced in the last 25 years? Well, I had um, malfeasance from particularly two agents within a government organisation that stalked and harassed me for a 10-year period. And I don't know the woman's name, but I know the man's name. I do know that he was reprimanded, but their job was to just watch me, and um, they intimidated me. They made me fearful, and it then made me fearful that the person who per, the person who was there was a group of people that were involved in this crime this night, but there was one main ringleader, and it was the one main ringleader who assaulted me. So I was assaulted twice that night, and it was a Commonwealth crime. It was one of the highest crimes that um, it's regarded as, because it could bring the government into disrepute or society into disrepute. And so sadly, what happens is they either prosecute these crimes or they cover them up. And so this one was covered up. So what happened was there was an out of court settlement, and the guilty party had to pay up through their insurance, multi-million dollar payout to the claimant. I was completely neglected in this whole process. So you could argue I'm equally, I deserve an equal fair share of whatever these other people claimed. I then had years of pain and anguish and agony because of the treatment that I received. It um, it's hard to describe. Anyone who's experienced threats, intimidation, harassment knows what I'm talking about. It's it's extremely painful. It's you fear for your life, and I did fear for my life. I still do. You know, I'm not mentioning the names here, obviously, because I don't want to bring any further attention to the fact that they know that I know, and I've spoken about this several times in streams where it's safer for me to um, talk about the topic without mentioning any names. And as much as I want to, it would it would um, it would cause me to be more of a target than I already am. What really got me was I I was in the years following. I was I was used as a mule for a corrupt accountant agency, and my testimony, in person testimony, proved that they were committing high level fraud. Um, and at that time, I was told I was under protection, but that only lasted for so long. And then I worried for years and years afterwards. You know, is this person or are these people going to come after me? You know, because I think they actually got away with it. But if they didn't get away with it, I would have been like massive target for them from them. Um, a year or two after that experience, there was um, a very very traumatic thing that happened to me. That was um, sexual trauma and highly traumatic for me. And anyone who's aware of the tactics of what goes on in this world, essentially, I was being set up in a honeypot operation to silence me, to basically get me to um, stop any chance of me having any say in coming after these individuals who did this Commonwealth crime in 1997. So I didn't. I'm not a sick person, So I felt like I'd been assaulted again that day, and I I I don't think I'll ever know if these things are connected, but I think they are, based on all of my research that I've done. Is that um, it's standard procedure in situations like this where you have a liability. I was a liability, so they had to get rid of me somehow, by any means possible. And there's many ways that they can do this. Just they can just discredit you. They can bankrupt you. They can falsely imprison you, and um, they can incriminate you. And they use tactics that are absolutely disgusting and abhorrent. And that's what was done to me. And because I'm not a sick person, I did not take the bait. And I basically spent another 6 years, I think it was, in going in and out of dissociation. And that's when my self harm actually started happening, is because of the result of this event that happened about 8 years after the initial event. So you think, oh, I'm not saying these things are all connected. That would be, um, people would say that's paranoid thinking or whatever. But um, this thing that happened in 1997 was with a team, with a group of international famous people that did a disgusting, depraved act in a public place. So there were hundreds of witnesses, and they managed to get away with it. And they got away with it by they didn't completely get away with it. So they had to pay up a massive insurance. So this guy's own insurance would have gone through the roof. He was formally banned from ever performing in this state ever again. It was like you were never allowed to come and perform here. And he did come here and actually perform once in another state. So yes, he's a musician. Um, and his cohorts were a band, and they did a depraved, sadistic, disgusting act on stage. And they got away with it. But he didn't completely get away with it because this was a known, because it was such a known thing, like no one speaks about, because what it did was is it threatened it threatened a music festival. It threatened the future of it. And so this was the reason for the insurance claim. So I was dragged off and put in a jail cell alongside this person who was the main person. And that's when he assaulted me. And at least I remember the security guard was trying to defend me. He was saying, why is he here? He's got nothing to do with this. You should let him go. What's he doing here?" And so I was like, you know, I mean, that whole night is just burnt into my brain, you know, from about 5 p.m. in the afternoon, or 5 or 6 p.m. in the afternoon till late in the evening. But essentially, it wasn't just this music festival, it was the victims of this situation, because what happened is, obviously this person didn't, um, they didn't plan this with the organizers. They just did it. So it was this, I won't call it a prank. It was more like some ritualistic act. Um, and so the organizers weren't aware of it until it was too late. And so their claim was, by the very fact that this person did this, and he wasn't even, the guy that was the ringleader wasn't actually performing. He wasn't on the program, but his band, one of his bands that he produces, um, was, and they were playing like every day of the festival, and I went and I'd seen them every day of the festival. Um, and so this was a unprogrammed, unscripted performance in a particular venue that had that sort of free flowing. Um, they might have a chalkboard or whatever and say who's playing that day. So it was added to the list. And so no one, there were a lot of people there that knew all about this. It was all planned. Like, they planned it throughout the day. It was all planned that they were going to do this act. And so what I'm trying to say is that this this event brought under the, like, it was a Commonwealth crime because it risked international scandal. Um, it The act itself was a depraved sex act that was done on stage. So that was a major crime itself. Um, and then, because I was dragged off and put in a jail cell for some reason, and it was because when I that night I was sat down. A friend of mine said, "Come and watch this," and sat me down on a cushion. They had cushions on the floor, and the guy sitting next to me was the guy who was actually got up on stage, because he wasn't a performer. He was the producer owner of the record label, and that's when he got up and did his thing, and he introduced the whole crowd with like sort of like a sideshow ringleader type spiel, explaining exactly what he was going to do. And then the band started playing, and then they did this very ritualistic dance, and then he performed this, not just him, five other people, four other, I think it was four. So that, it wasn't just one person responsible for this. There was many people responsible, but there was the one ringleader, but they all complied. And then there were the other victims too. There were other victims that night. And one of the participants was a victim. She was coerced. She may have been willingly doing this, but she was coerced into it. And that's what I've been given firsthand firsthand admission of that it was she may have been willing, but she was coerced into doing what she did on stage. So me as a spectator I was like shocked, and I was amused, like I couldn't believe this thing was happening. It had a comedic element, like this guy was a trickster, like he was he was wearing a trickster mask when he first went on stage, and he never took he everyone knew who he was, and if you heard his voice, you'd know who he was, and he was the owner producer of the band that was playing. And he was sitting next to me while we were sitting next to each other when the band was playing, and we had a conversation. I was saying to him, this is awesome. I'm enjoying this, because the band was playing some amazing music, and he goes, I remember I said, "Oh, this is awesome." He goes, "I know, wait till you see this." And that's when he got up and walked up on stage and grabbed the microphone and started the initiation of this ritual. So who are the parties that are responsible for my 27 years of pain? The Australian and the American consulate, Australian Federal Police. There are other societies that were associated with this that are responsible. The very fact that the organization that claimed millions of dollars in damages neglected me. The fact that I was neglected by all of the parties puts everyone in the same boat. So the security guard that wanted me to be released is probably the least culpable out of everyone. Yet at the same time, he's known and held this. Um, he's known this for this whole time. So for me, you can see why my complex trauma is so complex. That's just something that happened when I was 19. You know, I suffered malfeasance from institutional malfeasance when I was in preschool and when I was in Cubs Scouts, and um, also malfeasance from medical professionals. So I've I'm a really damaged person as far as trust. You know, it's very hard for me to trust authority when trust has been destroyed over and over. You know what I mean? So where do I go from this? You know, so and this is a good thing for anyone who's got complex trauma is like, you know, I could go to a lawyer like Tony Busby type guy and say, his represent me, you know. It's I could always do that. But because um, there's clearly malfeasance by so many different groups, it wasn't like this one event actually caused the fact that it was settled out of court and I was neglected is a crime itself. So when applying for the insurance claim, they would have said, are there any other um, major people that would need to claim as well? And they would have stricken me from that. Well, they did. I was never contacted. Yet I was assaulted in a private jail cell, like a makeshift jail cell on location. I then have like struggled in life. My art career has been sabotaged by this. My life has been sabotaged by this. You know, I had um, what I believe were um, attempts to silence me over the years. Um, this person has suffered himself, like the main ringleader of this event. Like his career was, he was blacklisted in a way. Um, like I said, he was banned from ever playing in this state ever. It never stopped him coming here, you know. And his his legacy has been tarnished in the sense that um, he could never reach any higher, like he could never break through any further than what he did. So he did suffer himself after the fact of this. Not financially though. Like, he is a multimillionaire, and he went on to produce um, hundreds and hundreds of records in that 27-year period since. He's very prolific. Um, so the thing is that I know what it's like to try and go and get justice. Like, when I tried to get justice over what happened to me in Cubs, I was threatened, formally threatened, and it scared me to pull back on the investigation. And this is only in the recent times. This is like, think about what it's been like for me for the last 27 years, where the trauma of this the and all these other things that happened to me afterwards, that were like, standard procedure in the playbook of um, how witnesses of crimes are dealt with by people in power. And these practices go back thousands and thousands of years. Like, there's nothing new in how they do it. And so if something is decided to be like, if he got away with it, but he didn't, you know. But the thing is that I was a victim because I was neglected in this whole process. And with everything going on in Hollywood, it's another trigger for me, because I think about all these victims of these things that go on, and I think, good on them for, like, finally speaking out, and, like, and I did think about, you know getting a lawyer and going for a prosecution, but because there were so many witnesses and people that know that this event happened. I'm not a father. I'm not a parent. I'm not a I'm not a husband. I don't have a career. My art career was always sabotaged. Every time I got close to actually doing something with it, something would come along, and, either there was a self-sabotage element, but there was also, excuse me, that's why I dissociated for so long and just sat in my room, and my life was just passed me by because of this. And I'm not crying out like I'm a victim and all this sort of stuff. I'm trying to say how painful it was. It really was painful. And I try and show you, oh yeah, I do all this stuff, like I make these tiles, I make music, and yeah, I have all these interests, and you know, having had experienced these such high levels of malfeasance have caused me to um, see how the world works. You know how it really works. Lifting the hood of the vehicle and seeing how it works. You know, lifting the veil, and the veil has been lifted in some ways. So what can I do about it? I can't do much. So people with complex trauma, we're all in the same situation where we almost can't do anything about it. In some cases, there's like a class action, and that's traumatizing enough for the individual, and that's when there's a single abuser that has abused multiple people. My situation is my trauma came from so many different sources, and in a lot of those cases there was responsibility and um, duty of care by authorities that was neglected, and that's why I have this fear of, or not fear, but just lack of trust in the system. And that, for instance, what happened to me, I was neglected, I was pushed aside, and they just hoped that I would never do anything about it, but I was periodically reminded about it, and um, I had the periodical intimidation from plenary organizations that essentially are free from like free, they can do what they like basically. And um and the thing that really upset me too is that because so many people know about this event that happened so long ago, and they've chosen to, they talk about it, but they don't, they treat it like it's this thing that they don't want to talk about because it was such a horrible thing, and it threatened the livelihood of this festival. Because but it wasn't planned, it wasn't in the program, so the festival can't be blamed for the fact that this person got up on stage and did this depraved sex act. So, but they claimed millions of dollars in damages, and I was kicked to the curb, and then I suffered being under surveillance for many years of my life. And like I said, there's a whole list of ways to, um, and look, this same these same tactics get done on small scales as well. So a victim of a something that happened within an organization, and it could be small, they will get this same sort of treatment. So, for instance, when I was um, half bludgeoned to death in preschool, my preschool teacher, she victimized me, and she worked on me to shut me up. And then I later found out she was just doing exactly what they do in a form of victimization, is to um, make the victim feel powerless and to single them out amongst the rest of the crowd, that if they're going to speak, that no one's going to believe them, that if they're going to speak, they're going to be punished. And this was entrained in me. I was conditioned, and this was preschool. So I'm not alone. Like, most people who've suffered complex trauma that have involved abuse or major crimes um, have suffered this. And there's a lot of cases that show this. I, like, I appreciate people just listening to me tonight, and there's no danger in hearing me talk about this stuff, because I'm not mentioning names. I could name almost all of the perpetrators, and you know some of the agents that were involved in this ongoing shutting down of this. And I understand, like, it's such a it would be the code of silence is set up to keep the rule, not just the rule of law, it's to keep everything running. They say it has to be done this way, and I don't agree with that. I think that um, there needs to be more justice in this world, and that having this system that's set up that is more about silencing individuals, um, all that does is lets bad people get away with horrible crimes. And so, what can I do about it? Nothing. You know, like, this person has the ability to have me assassinated, and I've feared that for many years. On top of that, I had harassment and intimidation that came from people working within the government in different branches, which caused me a lot of mental anguish. I could argue that when I was going through that period of self harm, that it was mostly attributed to all of this. You know, and case in point, when I went to the police about what happened to me in Cubs, I was publicly threatened. So, in very intimidating ways. So that's what they do. They, you know, like, all the stuff that's going on in Hollywood now is just like a is showing you what, this is what goes on. If you're a liability, they will actively work to neutralize the target, and that is done through several means: fear campaign, um, attack on the character assassination. I had that. I had attempted bribery, so I had attempted blackmail, and I didn't take the bait because I'm not a sick person. Um, and I'm not saying that they're connected to these. I'm not saying these two things are connected. I'm just merely saying that this was such a high level crime that was being covered up, basically, or not spoken about. So thousands of people know about this. You know, more thousands and thousands of people know about what happened this night, and it's all just sort of washed away. You know, but they don't realize I was a victim, that I was assaulted twice that night, and that because I was a liability, it meant that I was under the spectre of um, various agencies that were tasked to deal with that situation. And I wasn't the only victim that night. And I have a lot of empathy towards the other victims. You know, and one of the victims of this traumatic event that essentially affected her entire life, saved my life. Her compassion towards me gave me enough energy to keep going and gave me a reason to live. So I'm eternally grateful for her. Um, in a sense, there are two other victims that have had it much worse than me, in a sense that they've suffered their entire life. They've suffered stalking and harassment because of this, what happened. So, what do I do? How do I let go of this? You know, I could either take it to a lawyer and then, and again, this is over the years, like whenever I thought of what I could do, it'd be like I'd have to change. I'd have to go into witness protection. I'd have to disappear and change my name. The way I've been treated because of all this is really unfair, and I've said to several people who are close to uh, and directly, to people involved, that I deserve a formal apology. And I've had people come back to me and say, "You're never going to get an apology." And that's where I guess I can make this constructive, as far as doesn't matter, like, however your trauma, where it came from, you know, it could be a family situation, it could be a small organization, a larger organization, right up to large corporations, governments, entities. The sad thing is the same tactics of victimization happens in all of these things. So you do feel helpless. So what can help you? You know, I'd lived my life like I found distractions. I found things that, you know, I got to be comfortable being alone. And so not comfortable. It's not nice being alone. I'm very lonely. And that's why I appreciate this community here, because you're my friends. And um, I'm very fearful of actually um, establishing friendships now. So there's a difficulty in trust and um, finding interests that can, you know, keep you going. An addition an additional trauma on top of the trauma is the trauma of futility. So it's systemized abuse. So it's almost like being made aware that there's no justice is going to happen. If you seek justice, you'll be attacked. In fact, might be active towards making that clear. So it becomes a very lonely place. Not only because you lose trust in people. Um, you're forced into that. So when I do get to have connection with people and have relationships with people, um, it means so much to me. And I'm not alone at all. Like, there's so many people on this planet that have gone through much worse. But not to compare, like, anyone who's gone through abuse that has been suppressed or shut down or neglected, and then the victim themselves has gone through victimization, it is a horrible, horrible process. Um, it's You've already been attacked, harmed, abused, traumatized, and then even just the aggressor or the attacker being aware that you're aware of the situation is enough for them to then act on you, and that is an additional trauma. So it's like you're being tortured. I you know I I I honestly believe that I've suffered psychological torture over the last 27 years. And that's just talking about this particular case, but like going back to even the preschool, the way I was victimized by my teacher because she was doing the same thing. She was covering it up. So apparently, all they did, all it was said to my parents was, I was handed over the gates of the. They didn't even open the gates. I remember it. They didn't even open the gates of the preschool. They handed me over the gates. They were holding me, and I was crying, and I had been crying for like several hours after this event. And they just handed me over in silence, and they didn't say anything. This is what I've been told. So there was no report made, no follow up. And that's just one thing. So when people, like someone commented, and I haven't responded yet, and I will respond because I respond pretty much to every comment that people make. He mentioned therapy, gateway gateway experience or something like that, and saying that yes, you can heal from complex post traumatic stress disorder in a matter of months, and I'll look into it, and I'm on this healing journey. That's what this whole channel is about. Is that, and um, but the reason why it's complex is because it's not it's not simple. So today I slept. I had this 6 days of healing thing, and it's all about this anniversary of this event. And um, so far, I've managed to clean quite a bit of my outer room. That's going to be for making art and sculpting and painting and drawing and carving. And it's also a great place to set up the computer and use it as an office space as well. And then this room needs a lot of work. It needs everything to be gone through and all the dust removed that's congealed over the last few years. Because even though I've kept it, you know, reasonably clean, it's the dust is built up. And because I have a lot of stuff, you can't just dust, and you have to literally empty out a thing and wipe everything down, and then wipe the surfaces down, and then you can put it back, and then it's clean. So it's a lot of work, and so that's the next thing. My body needed to sleep today. Last night I've been crying over this. I've been weeping over this. It's good to see people here in the chat, and so I'm talking about moving. How do I move past? How do I move on? So my my answer to it is to keep working on this concept for rehabilitate or healing centers. Places where people can go, and whether it's for a week, 6 months, or years, they get a place where they can just go and heal and learn something new, become something new. and feel safe, because whether they're running away from or escaping from their immediate surroundings, or right up to a corporation or a government that's um, persecuting them. Everyone's got to, and it's very difficult for me to actually conceptualize how to actually do this, where essentially direct communication needs to be made with, like, government authorities, churches, institutions, so secret societies, anyone who's responsible for damaging people. So someone comes to us, we have to get on the phone and say, look, you know, we're looking after this person now. And obviously the same goes with cults, so it's one of the hardest things for people to escape. And when they do, it takes years to heal. And so that's what I guess what I'm doing. Like, I'm trying to turn what happened to me into something positive, so that people can, if there was this place that existed when I was a kid, or when I was an adolescent or an adult, I would have contacted them, and I would have gone and started my life again. What I'm saying is that, you know it, it we need this. We need this, and so I'll get to the chat now, because I see there's people chatting. And like, I think I've talked about all this stuff quite a bit recently, and I don't want to be going over the stuff, but I want to try and talk about how finding something new yourself can be the thing that helps you. Finding purpose, finding hope, and finding purpose. It's been taken from you, and you feel lost, and um, if especially if you've gone to relevant authorities for hope that you're going to be looked after, and they don't look after you, that's really debilitating. So in those situations, know that you're not alone, but you also really are alone. So that you have to take it on yourself to keep going, to find something to do, find a way out. My situation, where I went, and this is only in the last few years, like, I went to the police. I got threatened in public twice. It was actually a third time. which but I won't talk about that. Um, Direct, formal threats made to me to get me to shut down my investigation. I live basically a prisoner in my own house where I'm because these things happen in my suburb and a percentage of the population here they don't want to hear about another scandal that happened 40 years ago. You know what I mean? It wasn't 40 years, 38 years ago. This particular one. But I mean so that they're willing to actually become like winged monkeys doing the bidding of the bad people. And it's so what I have to do is I have to take it back. I have to take back my confidence in doing things, you know. And it's not easy once you've been forced into being isolated. Um, it's very hard to like stand proud again and feel comfortable in society because once you've had, you know, a portion or a percentage of the people around you turn on you, they're only doing it because they're afraid. And they're actually, if they knew the truth, they would be on my side and they would come up to me and they would say, I'm so sorry that this happened to you. Like, I hope that you're doing well. But they do the opposite. So they're acting on behalf um, of the side that wants to get me to shut up. And that's the world we live in. And it's sad that we live in that world. But we can choose to actually live our lives regardless of all that. And that's what I'm trying to do, you know. And I tell you, I promise, like next year, I'm gonna be fearless. I'm gonna be proud to stand in public. And if anyone has a problem with me, I'll tell them to shut their mouth because they have no right. And I'll tell them, I'll say, you're perpetuating a major crime by your actions. So look at what you're doing, you know. So I have been chatting and everyone's just been listening to me. So I really appreciate everyone letting me talk about this tonight because it's like an anniversary of this. And in the last 27 years, it's the things that I've experienced have been horrific. And that I feel for other people who've gone through the same situation. And I've heard a lot of since starting this channel. I've had a lot of people reach out to me and tell me how um, when they went to get help, they were demonized. When they went to get justice, took people to court, the judge said not guilty when clearly the person was guilty. Um, and it really upsets me when I hear that stuff because it seems to be that this happens all over the world, and it's just the way things are. That, um, but don't give up. You know, I'm trying, I'm attempting, and I look back at what I've achieved, and I had a friend say a lovely, beautiful message to me, um, like yesterday, that look at all the things that I've achieved, and that's how amazing it is, and I need to do that, and I need to keep that momentum going and understand patience. Things will take time, but I have to keep working on it. I have to for myself, and um, I'm not as sad and lonely that I have friends here now. You know, so yeah, I'll go through the chat quickly, and then I'll need a 2 minute break. And mommy says, "Hi Luke, how you been?" Yeah, that's it. I have been crying without the tears. I've been the occasional tear, and I've been in that really sad state. And I'm so appreciative and thankful for having friends that I've been chatting to in the last 24, 48 hours, that where this has been sort of affecting me. That it's so important to have that, like, people appreciate it. I appreciate it so much. It's like it can be the thing that keeps you on the right path, and the support and I get here in the chat is amazing. It's like it helps me realize, don't give up on things. Keep going with what you're doing. Understand things are going to be tough. Um, you're going to be disappointed with things. You're going to be let down. You're going to be lonely. But you can find things that make you enjoy life. So, Mama Bear says, I read this one before, but I'll read through more. Hey Luke, I've been wiped out today too. Energy heavy. Glad I caught the live. Yeah, I'm glad you're here. It's like that. It is that time of year for us all, um, and this is the thing. It gets overwhelming, you know. And when it gets overwhelming, we got to have techniques to ground yourself, distract yourself, um, keep working on yourself. So my big thing now is health. So I have to like get fit again. You know, I know that's going to help. Look, I got to take a quick 2 minute break, but I'll be back. I hope everyone's here when I get back, and I'll start reading the comments. I see there's some nice comments there. Thanks for waiting. MJG's here. Awesome. MJG says, hello, Hermione, Mama, Luke, and etc. With the hearts. Thank you. Hermione says, hi, MJG. Good to see you. How are you? MJG says, I'm okay, Bells. You too, I hope. That's right. I remember that now. I remember that from the last stream. It's like, oh, how awesome. Bells is back. Much love to you. And that's where, with all the things going on, it was that was such a lovely thing to reconnect the other day, and I'm glad you're here now. Hermione says, I'm okay. Mama Beth says, futility. Yep, the system needs to be dismantled. It's such a, I'm hearing you. It needs to be reformed. We are on the verge of the modern Reformation, and it's the way humanity can either go. It can go. Each time there's been a major Reformation, some things improve and some things get worse. And we're in danger right at the moment for this modern Reformation to become like go in a really bad way, or it could go in a really good way. And I think the choice is up to us. I think the choice is up to how we contribute to society to try and, because ultimately, like, the people that own the world and rule the world, they all fight amongst each other as well. When you get down to the level of humanity itself, we can actually be part of that Reformation, and it's as simple as how we change the way we, or not necessarily change, how we reinforce the way we behave and treat each other. And so, for instance, collective hate. That's why it's so easy for it's so easy to basically for people to prey on collective hate in order to sway public opinion, or to have certain things agreed upon or pushed through as laws, or but on a personal level, like, we can do it ourselves by changing the way we communicate, or reinforcing the way that we communicate, and not allow ourselves to fall into those practices, which is such a easy thing to do, because in most cases people don't realize humans are very reactionary, and those that want to shape public opinion know this, and it's so easy for them to um, to get people to react. So by not reacting, by staying honest and true, and you know showing compassion towards one another and towards just ourselves, can be a massive thing. And but I like your comment there, Mama Bear. There certainly needs to be more accountability. So that woman I mentioned recently in a few streams back how there was a woman who was a whistleblower for one of the most notorious um, sick, evil person that was within a church organization, and he was allowed to um, harm, cause. I'm trying to speak without saying the exact words, but like um, the church knew what was going on. They let this guy do what he was doing for like 10 years or something. He even traveled across the world and did it in other places. And a woman was a whistleblower, and then she had the federal police come and raid her house because they were doing the bidding of the church. Just in these last few days, she's been um, absolved of all charges, and rightly so. And she deserves compensation. She deserves $100,000 or something for the pain she's gone through, and the government should pay for that because they're the ones. They did the bidding of the church, and the church was responsible. She was not committing a crime when she was exposing. What she was exposing was a crime itself. So she got her charges dropped. She deserves to have compensation for the pain she's endured. And you know what? She'll probably donate half of that money anyway to the victims. And apparently, there's hundreds of victims in this case. So they need to. This is the whole thing about the reason why I want to create a sanctuary is that every organization, cults especially, but um, they all have their own um, fixer, cleanup, um, intelligence, and um, that like they commit crimes in order to cover up crimes. And that's the world we live in. It's like they all have these systems. And so in this case where I won't name the church, but they are um, one of the bigger churches, they are responsible for every single case. And the fact that they actively covered it up for many years means that a lot of these people are responsible. Like, so they should go to jail alongside this. They finally convicted, this person that took them years to actually get to that point because no one was listening because they were letting it happen. And it shows you the power and reach that they use the federal police to actually go and raid this woman's house and prosecute her for exposing crimes. So in the last few days, she has been acquitted of all charges, and I really do hope that she gets at least 100,000. That's a humble number. She deserves $1 million or something, because her whole life she may never work again. She's that traumatized by this. Mama Bear says hi MJG with the star. Mama Bear says hi Hermione, sorry. MJG's got the star. Hermione says hi Mama Bear. Australiana Maid is here. Awesome to see you. You're a legend. I love your attitude. You're helping me out a lot. MJG says hi Australiana. Australiana says maybe go and stay at one and see where they are at service wise. Might help you at the same time. I'm tempted. Just don't go to Heal for Life. You have to take your own food and get isolated. Yeah, exactly. That's a perfect thing, what you just said there. I'm gonna write that down as normally I have my pen. Here we go. I should do this. I should go and see what's out there. Like, we have places like Byron Sanctuary and stuff, and they cost $100,000 just to get in there. So places like that out of my reach. What I can do is go and spend like 2 days in the bush, sleeping in my hammock. I can't do it right now. I could do a 24-hour thing. But what you're talking about is more going to a retreat, a healing retreat where people don't try to actually do too much. It's about giving space. And I think that's a very important thing, is just like giving people space and letting them know they're safe, and looking after yourself, like taking your own food and stuff. So I'm writing this down. Retreat options. It will give me it will give me an opportunity to actually research what's out there as well. Money is a big cost prohibitive factor. So, I live right next to the national park. I can just pack my backpack and just walk off into the bush and just be in nature for 2 days. So that's what I'm going to do as soon as possible. It's not possible right now. I'm only able to really get away for a couple of hours at a time, and that's where I did those a couple of streams where I was sitting in my ute in the rain. They were nice. It was nice to do that, and I've got my microphone now, so next time I do that, the sound quality will be much better. I really like that comment, Australiana. Like, I'll look into that. And I can review it, I can document it, and um, from a perspective of what it did for me, sort of thing. Australiana says, have a look at government registries to see what's out there. Nothing for parents of SV victims or places to build parent-child connections. You must create a purpose. That's exactly it. That's it. These things don't exist. They really don't, and then they need to exist. We need to have this. Mama Bear says, "Hey, Australiana, Osmade." Mama Bear says, "I wish there was one for parents and children." Yes, here we go. This is perfect. I wish there was one for parents and children to escape cults and trafficking, where we could go and be safe and heal. That's exactly it, and that's essentially what I want to help create. And we can do this together. We can create this together. So what exists at the moment is limited numbers of domestic violence shelters, um, and they exist, but they're overrun. They don't have the resources, so there needs to be more of them. But there needs to be ones for people escaping cults. It's a big thing. Like if you have to you're and here's an example, right? Um, I know people that have um, escaped cults and they still practice their religion. They've managed to find a church that they can go to, and that's great because it's a community for them, you know, and they've obviously were able to be open enough to explain their situation to the people, so they're not necessarily going to be treated um, too cautiously, but they're going to be given respect and space. Um, I sadly I think that same thing as ritual abuse, incest, and sorry for trigger warning terms, but institutional abuse, they're neglected, and there's no place where people can just go. You know, so Harmony Seekers here. Awesome to see Harmony Seeker. Harmony Seeker says hi all. MJG says hi Harmony, and Mama Bear says hi Harmony. Look, I hope I hope I'm not upsetting anyone with my trigger warning or topics tonight, but it's good. This is stuff we should talk about. There has to be places for people to call up knock on the door, whatever, and say, I need to leave right now. Because, and again, and that was my point before, was that it's neglected. It's it's why certain crimes within the judicial system are not prosecuted like they should be. Um, that's very sad because it disempowers the victims. If they've got enough courage to actually go to explain what's happening to them and then they get rejected, what that's the most disheartening thing. And in a very separate situation, like, I reached out to the federal police to ask to speak to a liaison officer just to talk to them to help me move on, and I never got any contact back. And that was such an upsetting thing. So I couldn't imagine what it would be like for someone who's just going through, like, just experiencing horrible situation and then to be neglected. You know? So there's need for this charity. There's need for this, and it needs to be. It needs to have so many different variations so that people in different situations can approach it or go. It could just be like someone needs a week or a couple of days just to be in a safe environment and to work through their problems, decide what they're going to do. Um, Often, bad advice is something that happens. So, going to someone in a position where you're wanting advice about a very serious matter, whether to make it a civil lawsuit, whether to go get some form of support, protection, move house. It's not easy. People in domestic violence situations or abuse situations, they stay in them because they don't have anywhere to go, and then there's no proper system set up for them to relocate. You know, and we don't want to have to do this. We don't want to have to, like, move city. And this is something I faced myself many times over the years. Is I was like, well, if I go into witness protection, then I'm never going to see my family again. I'm never going to see my friends again. It's a big decision. You're essentially you're losing a lot yourself in this. So, from what I understand, is that most people either stay in that abusive relationship, or they stay in that situation, or they detach. They break away from the cult or the abusers, and they remain and they try and just keep doing what they're doing, but see, it it gets harder and harder for them to just live because, like, my take for instance, my situation is that, you know, I'm surrounded by the, these families of abusers that abused me when I was a child, and they all have friends, and it's a it's a you know, everyone in the suburb all talks about it. So I can't leave my house without someone saying something to me. And they don't realize what they're doing is they're actually culpable in that situation. They're By doing what they're doing, they're making themselves liable for as an accomplice, essentially. And if people realize that, maybe they would stop doing that. You know, if someone came up to me in the street or in public at a shop or something and said, "Look, I'm so sorry. What happened to you? I feel for you. Stay strong, and I hope that you can um, live your life, and just know that there's people that are, feel for you, or if I got that, I would just be amazed. I would be encouraged to live again. But you get the opposite. I get the opposite. It's because, and the thing is, every suburb has got thousands of dark secrets, evil secrets that they want to keep hidden. Every suburb. Like, acknowledgement would go a long way, you know. I am talking about heavy stuff here. This is a big part of healing, and is to actually have this opportunity to speak. I hope I'm not upsetting anyone. So, so where do I go from here? I just keep pushing forward. I've got to I've got to lose 20 kilos of weight at least. I'm not going to give up on doing what I'm doing. What I'm up against is very much a almost, well, they will never apologize, and I've been told that. I've been told by several people that I'll never get an apology. So coming to terms with that is something that has helped me, even though it hurts. So one of the hardest things with complex trauma is trying to rationalize the irrational. And it creates dissonance in the brain. You just keep going around in circles trying to understand why these things happen. How could they be allowed to happen? How could they let this no justice? How? Because we're taught that there's meant to be rules and laws in this world, and yet they're consistently broken and covered up. So we live in this world of corruption. So it is when people do have when people do have some form of justice that they receive in a positive sense, where their aggressors or attackers or abusers are taken and made accountable. That is really great when that happens. It's very hard for me to talk about these topics without getting censored on YouTube, because I'm talking about very sensitive topics. And I appreciate everyone being here right now. This is like an anniversary for something that was changed my life and set in train a whole series of horrible events. What I'm learning from it all is I have to be the one that lets go of the pain. I have to be the one that grows. I have to be the one that takes what happened and make it something positive. And I'm working on that. It's not easy. I'm only able to achieve so much in any particular day. And yeah. So I'm trying to be positive. It's amazing how when you do get those things, Australiana had a great point. Do three things each day. Just three things. And okay, so what did I do today? I slept. So I slept. I needed to sleep. I needed to catch up on sleep. I'll count that as something I did because it was beneficial for me. I did the stream. That's another thing. So, and there's still the rest of the day. So maybe I'll eat something nourishing. That can be my next thing. Everyone here understands what it's like when you have major trauma and you go through trauma response. It messes up your prefrontal cortex, so all your high level thinking gets disrupted. So it restricts what you can do when you are in that triggered state. So knowing that helps you pick things to do that you can achieve. Okay, so I'll use art as an example. Like, art would be great therapy, and rather than trying to paint a picture or do a drawing that would require high level thinking, just make marks on a page. Just same thing with cooking, like I'm thinking, okay, I'll cook a meal later. I'll make it the most simple food possible. Like I'll fry up some onion and some pumpkin and I'll steam some rice. It'll taste delicious. It'll be nourishing, and I'm not trying to make some complex, because to try and do that right now is not possible. So that is a powerful thing. Knowing, here's another thing. I was chatting with a friend, and I was saying how I'm getting back into the exercise, and she said, we're talking about doing, sit-ups and push-ups and chin-ups, and she's like, "Oh, how many chin-ups you reckon you could do?" And I was like, "Oh, I could probably do 3 or 4." I said I used to be able to do 20 chin-ups, when I was like at my fittest, and we were having a video chat, so I set the phone up so she could watch me. I couldn't even do one chin up. Like I couldn't even lift. I couldn't even lift, like, and I tried it both ways. Still, I couldn't. I'm so unfit, And then she said, "Well, don't worry about that. Just start off doing the other exercises and focus on losing a bit of weight, because the weight's it's making it harder to do it. It's not just because your muscles have wasted away; it's because of the weight." So don't try and don't expect that you're going to be able to do this thing that's impossible. So try to achieve what is possible and get to the point where you can start doing these things. I hope I haven't upset anyone tonight with me talking about all this stuff. It means a lot to me to talk about this stuff, because it is so profound for me, and what I've endured is a lot. And it's given me it's given me purpose. I've found purpose in life. It's not going to be easy. I'm going to be up against every system. The very notion of trying to accommodate and take care of people in these situations that I mentioned, it goes against. It doesn't want to be acknowledged. These are the things that don't want to get acknowledged, and that's why it is such a compounding thing. Is that we live in a society where the things that should be acknowledged are ignored. So, look, I've noticed that the chat slowed down, and that's probably because the way I'm talking and what I'm talking about, you know, and but I think everyone's experienced this on some level, and I think it's more common than what people would say, because maybe they're afraid to say. You know, I often get this. I often think, oh look, I'm just talking about my problems. I'm you know I'm not crying out like I'm a victim of all this stuff, but I've suffered from all this stuff, so I want to speak about it, and I'm trying to work out ways I can actually just live my life again, and if it wasn't for the fact that it's so difficult, that when you are a victim of a crime that is not wanted to be acknowledged, that further victimization of the victim is horrible. And that I know since starting this channel, I've had so many people tell me tell me privately their stories where they've suffered massively, where they're just trying to heal, they're trying to start their life again, and it's made worse. And something has to change in society for this. Um, so yeah, it's 27 years of agony. Was, you know, if I go back to my early childhood trauma, then it's 42 years of agony. But you know what? I've managed to live most of that time as a happy, friendly person. You know, I've never been violent, and I never will be violent. Um, but I think that it's. I think there's. I'm just gonna dedicate the rest of my life to trying to make this thing happen in some form, some way. And you know, I need I need lawyers. I need accountants, um, professionals of all walks of life to help make this happen. Like when anyone who wants to read the charter when I make it available, they'll see, yeah, how it will work, and it's an invitation for people to want to heal. It could be a really amazing thing, and I'm going to start doing at least fortnightly, but maybe even weekly conference calls, um, where I can have up to 150 people join a conference call, and everyone can have their say. I don't expect there to be lots of people, but it'll grow, and um, I'll make sure that the meetings have a structure that is fair, so that everyone gets a chance to speak, and that's what I'm going to do. If I can't get justice, if I can't, you know, in my situation, there's too many people that owe me in compensation. There's too many parties, and they're all notorious for not wanting to acknowledge their damage they've caused. So they will aggressively try to shut me down, and they have already. So um, I'm starting this charity with $1. It'd be nice if I could start it with funding. Maybe we will find. Maybe there will be some amazing, compassionate, wealthy people that will help fund this. And the world is waking up to how things are. Um, Thanks everyone for being here. I guess what I'm trying to say is, next next stream I'll check when it's on. It might be tomorrow morning. Um, it is no, it's tomorrow night again. So I've already scheduled it for tomorrow night. So I'm going to do it stream tomorrow night. But you know what? I'm gonna the idea of doing these 6 days of streams. I was meant to be doing stuff, you know, cleaning and working in the garden and fixing things. I've got stuff to do. So I've already scheduled tomorrow night's stream for 6 p.m. So whoever wants to come and join, I'm not going to be talking about the stuff I talked about tonight. It. I needed I needed to have this opportunity to say this stuff, and I appreciate people being here with me, and um, it's just as much me also speaking to MJG says, bye, thanks. Bye, Luke, thanks. Thanks. Yeah, MJG says, see you next time. I'll take care. Thanks for being here, MJG. I appreciate it. And I'll try and make, you know, I get this sort of guilty feeling when I talk about this stuff. And then I need to say to myself, no, you've got a right to actually say this stuff, and people want to hear it too. Because um, I mean, you only have to look at what's going on in Hollywood at the moment, and you had all these victims that were crying out for years, and the system was just ignoring them because people had power. And I'm going to try and make something good of what has happened to me. I really am. I'm going to rediscover art. I'm going to get back into doing that. I've got um, I've got a set of 4 poems that I've written, and I'm making the 4 poems chapters in a book, and I'm going to illustrate a children's book, and that's going to be a project for me for next year. So now I've got an art studio space. I've got somewhere to get back into drawing. I'm starting a business, you know. Mama Bear says, thanks, guys. Catch you next time. The star in the heart. You're good, Luke, and keep speaking tonight. Keep speaking tonight. Yeah, thanks for being here, Mama Bear. Mama Bear says, thanks for having me. Thanks for being here, you know. So that's good. That makes me feel better that I'm you know, I'm saying the right things that aren't upsetting people as well. Happy Hermits here. How you going, brother? Happy Hermit says, good morning. Yeah, exactly. Like sunrise you'd be pretty close to sunrise now. I didn't, Happy Hermit, yesterday I cleaned guitars. Today I slept. Yeah. Happy Hermit says, yeah, good. Just woke up, nightmare. Oh, you had it too. Not alone. There you go, brother. It's going around. Like I spoke to a friend that was having nightmares as well. So, you know, often it could be to do with, you know, we often nightmares are associated with personal trauma and personal things are going on within one's own life. But you know, we all share this planet, and there's a lot going on right now, and um, you know, I think there is something to do with that. That there's personal nightmares and collective nightmares, and that I was just thinking about the nightmare I had last night. It was like, oh, it was full on. I hope your nightmares have eased now. You know, when you have a nightmare and then you wake up and you feel like really messed up for hours afterwards. That's really scary when that happens. And sometimes you wake up from the nightmare and like you're just happy because you're like, oh, that was just a nightmare. And then like, oh, I've got stuff to look forward to. So it can be so different, the reactions you get from it. And then there's the other nightmares that you sort of wake up, and this was sort of what happened today. It was like it was a like a half nightmare. It and left me feeling strange. And I guess maybe that's why I spoke about everything I spoke about tonight. Yeah, that's it. Happy Hermit's got like the looks like an insect shedding a tear. That's yeah, and that says it all there, brother. It's not it's painful, isn't it? Um Happy Hermit continues. It's getting old. I've tried everything to ease them. Yeah. I know lucid dreaming works, so um, it has worked. But then I haven't been practicing it. I've just been letting the nightmares happen lately, and just sort of hoping that they pass. Um, but I hear what you're saying. They're getting old. Like they're getting old. Like you get tired of them. You know, you're meant to be resting, and you're meant to have positive experiences, at least in your dream state. You know, and nightmares or dreams themselves perform very important functions in um, how we process our daily life and also how we act in the future in our so process what we've just gone through, but then how we change how our behavior moving forward, you know and they're also a way of processing complex situations and then uh, quantizing them or quantifying them into um, like an abstract form that is also applicable. So it's like shaping us. So like our waking life, we're being shaped by our experience, and then when we sleep, we're reflecting on that. But we're also like our sleep state is also conscious and living as well. But it serves a different function in the sense that um, it enables these complex, complicated things to be abstracted and then stored, you know, in our long-term memory. And then and that's where gets complicated because there's a lot of arguments within psychology and of what they are, how they work, and but certainly, you know, it's profound. Like I'm currently just like thinking of my nightmares from last night, and it's just like it's like an ordeal. And I guess that's why I spoke about all this stuff tonight. I don't know what I'm going to do about it all, except for the fact that I'm going to keep focusing on personal development, personal growth. Um, you know, my look, my waking life is a nightmare. Not all the time, but there's some seriously major aspects to it that are and have been for a long period of time. And what to do about that? So keep investing in the self. Keep learning and nourishing, doing nourishing things. You know, that futility that I was talking about earlier, and um, getting past futility is a powerful thing. And so that's where, like, if you look at it, that's where if you get stuck in the futility of a situation, then that's when you procrastinate, and then you know the futility will still be there, but if you can move past it and actively work on things that will have returns, you're working towards a better future. And it's as simple as that, but it's such a difficult thing because it's so easy to fall into the trap of procrastination or rumination. Um, on top of that, if you are experiencing ongoing harm through um, emotional abuse, societal abuse, physical abuse, stress is another thing. So then you also have these um, things that are factors that contribute to this overall. And in a lot of cases, they're things that are out of your control. So being able to not ignore them, but to shift your focus onto what you can control, what you can focus on, what will give you returns is a great way to help breaking that procrastination cycle, because as soon as you think in a fatalistic way, um, you give up, and that's what I've done, and I've shown that with when I was showing everyone all my tools and my art equipment, and talking about how it sat there for years. I've allowed that to happen, but the beauty of it is that it's I'm cleaning the room. I've got the tools. It's a matter of cleaning them up and getting them shiny again and rediscovering things that were my passion, you know, and I'll get there. I'll get there. And you know, having um, having this community is such a beautiful thing, really. So today was like day 3 of the streams, and it was essentially the most painful one for me because it was the anniversary, roughly, and so my body needed to sleep today. So when I started the stream tonight, I knew I was just going to talk. I wasn't going to do anything. And it's turned out fine. It's turned out to be actually good. But Happy Hermit, I hope your nightmares ease for you, Um, there's ways you can avoid nightmares with affirmations before you go to sleep, setting alarms to wake you up, eating different foods, But the nightmares are there for a reason too. But at the same time, I hear exactly what you're saying. I'm getting tired of them. I'm tired of waking up tired because I've just had a extremely disturbing nightmare. But those things will pass. They're not going to be there forever. It's a symptom of what I'm going through at this current moment. So next year is going to be amazing, right? I've got several people interested in doing interviews with me, which will be awesome. They're lovely people. And the first one is a fellow Australian, and she's an absolute inspiration. She's got an amazing story of resilience. And I also have an American woman that is same thing, like an amazing, lovely person, and has been through the ringer, has been through. That's an Aussie saying, been through a lot. So doing these interviews will be a new change to the year. I'm working on a website or a couple of websites so that I can advertise my mindfulness training. And I've started a separate YouTube channel for just mindfulness. So when I start posting on there, I'll let everyone know so that they can check them out. But I'll be doing specifically content so that you can learn mindfulness through this. and not just mindfulness itself, but um, moving past trauma and living with trauma, and um, being productive, like what I was talking about tonight. Breaking that cycle of procrastination, and how difficult it is because it's pervasive. It's and futility. So seeing past futility, acknowledging it, accepting it. Once you accept things, then at least you can move on. You can move past. You can attempt to, not even attempt. You can achieve. So it's been really nice. I mean, everyone's just been sitting here tonight listening to me speak, and this has been such a healing, calming thing for me. And these 6 days of streaming, the whole intention was to be a healing experience. And I appreciate everyone for being here and listening to me. I hope that what I say is positive, even if I'm talking about negative, painful things. Hopefully, people understand that. You know, I am looking at how to process and move on, how to thrive, and it's not easy. It's really not easy. So acceptance and acknowledgement of when times are tough is a very good thing too. Often, we all do this, and we see it in other people where they're not accepting of their situation, and you want to try and help them, but they won't listen to you. And sometimes you're worried that it'll make it worse for the person. So you hold back from saying what they should be doing. So you know offering solutions to people often is seen or regarded as being judgment. you know and when that happens, then even if you have good intentions, it's not going to be accepted. So so sometimes it's allowing people to be in that moment. um, if people are in a situation where it's detrimental or dangerous for them, that's when you need to step in and say something. um, but it like even even being spoken to, solutions or observations and solutions can be seen as judgment, and they often are seen as judgment, and then it shuts the person down. So you know being able to empathize with their situation first, and then somehow offer solutions. um, it's a very difficult thing. I know I'm very stubborn myself, You know, people tell me what I should be doing. I think, no, you can't tell me what to do. I'm going to work it out myself. You know, and they could have the best intentions and the best solutions, but the way it was delivered created uh, a blockage or dissonance. You know, it's often empathy can be expressed in silence, and just simple acknowledgement, and having having solutions that don't require um, too much, you know. And so I've said this one before, but it's like the story about the guy that goes to the local doctor and says, you know, I'm having troubles with my digestion. I've I'm in all this pain. I can't. My body's not working right, you know, and I can't stop eating bread. You know, I love eating bread, but I get this indigestion and the pain, and I can't sleep and all this stuff. And then the doctor says, you know, well, don't don't stop eating bread, but what you have to do is you have to eat, like, eat, you know, 4 potatoes and 4 carrots and some broccoli, you know, in every meal. And well, the guy goes back to the doctor and says, you know, it's worked. I can I can I'm not in this pain anymore. Thank you so much, you know. And so the solution wasn't to stop eating the bread. It was to include other things to reduce the amount of, you know, bread, because if you're eating other food, you can't eat as much bread. So solutions that involve not emphasizing the actual problem help to create acceptance, because one of the biggest barriers humans have is acceptance. And so nothing's easy with all this stuff. Often you go to someone with a problem, you know, something that's going on in your life, and you sometimes you're hoping for them to give you a solution or an advice, you know, and other times you're just needing to speak to someone, like what I've done tonight. You know, I've needed this. I've needed the ability to just talk, and everyone's listened. You know, and I really appreciate that. And it can so easily turn into a disaster by opening yourself up and expressing what's causing harm or pain with someone that you trust, and their reaction has no empathy, is judgmental, and based on um, observations that were um, not necessarily correct. So there's so many ways that reaching out, asking for advice, or just wanting someone there to listen can actually backfire and be damaging. You know, in its worst case, you tell someone something horrible that you've gone through, and they blame you for it and tell you to just toughen up, or disregard it, as if, like, how can you say that that's upsetting you? You know. So there's so many ways, like, there's so many ways things. So it's having someone that will actively listen to your concerns. They can just sit with you in silence, and that can be enough. So even in that situation, just acknowledging that, the problem is, like, to try and suggest a solution is a bad outcome, or create a bad outcome. You know. So what do I do about my situation? It's like I say, I'm working on things. I'm working on what I can do. So hopefully the next stream is exciting. It's going to be a nighttime stream, and I will be going through all of these shelves and cleaning and chatting. My goal is to, at the end of the week, start the new year with the garden looking good, my art room ready, my bedroom clean, my mixer. This will take me an hour to clean the mixer. I should have had a cover over it. I feel bad about that. I've got a lot of work to do, and I'm going to share it with you all, and we'll hopefully have a good time. So, I appreciate everyone for being here with me tonight, and I talked about some heavy stuff, and I don't know what I'm going to do about it all, because I'm at a point where it has caused so much damage, and I don't deserve the treatment I'm getting. So I need to work out a way to move forward. And yeah, much love to everyone. I appreciate you all. And I'll see you tomorrow. Same time.